Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert. And today I'm going to talk to you about leadership. A couple podcasts ago, I introduced the concept of my 3 leadership traits or values. And those are there is no no, an open mind, and kindness. And I know those are going to shock you because a lot of leadership principles do not look like that. But those are the 3 that I have seen, I have learned, and I have learned to respect those 3 traits. I believe they make the greatest leaders. And so today I'm going to start talking about number 1, which is there is no no. Now, this particular lesson I learned the hard way. I learned all my lessons the hard way. That is my learning style, is just hard. Um, I'm a learner by doer, which means I fall down a lot, which, isn't bad. So I learned this lesson really hard way, with a lot of tears and a lot of stern conversations. So before I started at Amazon, most of my career had been in compliance. I was a licensed customs broker, still am a licensed customs broker, qualified brokerage licenses all over the place in the Mid Atlantic. And so everything I had really been doing was around regulations, rules, moving freight, working with government agencies. And when you work in customs compliance, being compliant and knowing the rules and regulations is very important because that's your job. So I did most of that. I spent a couple years at a little startup called Vastera. They mean $1 billion, so they weren't little. I'm sorry, guys. So Vastera, they got bought by JP Morgan. And that was a tech company that was doing customs compliance. So that was sort of my introduction to technology. It was a couple of years there being a product program project manager. The name changed every 6 months. But anyway, I was working on their customs compliance technology. So when I get hired into Amazon, everything I know and everything I've been doing is really about being compliant, like knowing the rules, knowing the regulations, and knowing what to do. So I get to Amazon, I get hired to develop this program that would eventually get known as Amazon Global. At the time, it's this tiny little thing. But the other thing that happened when I started at Amazon, I became the only second person at that organization who knew anything about international logistics. Period. The only other person who knew anything about international logistics was Mike McKenna, and that was my mentor, and he was more than happy to shove anything that looked like international logistics onto my plate. So, all of a sudden, I'm hired to run a program, but all of a sudden, I'm getting questions about how do we send stuff to Singapore? How do we import that? We got this shipment of shoes from Italy. It's holed up at customs. We got all these containers who lost the OBLs. What about hazmat? What about product compliance? What about this? What about that? Why can't I import that? Why can't I export this? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't get hired to do the shit. Yeah, but you have the knowledge. So, being the customs compliance person I am, I start consulting regs and start advising no, 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 you cannot do that. No, that's not allowed. No, that's illegal. No, that's not, this isn't a requirement. You can't negotiate that. No, 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 and no. And if you worked at Amazon in the early days, and I did this too, I was also very guilty of this. If you told someone no, they just fucking did it anyway. They just went around your back and just did it. I did it all the time. I'd go to somebody, they say, no, we can't write that code. I just go find the guy who wrote the code, make a deal, get the code written. I'm not waiting. I don't have time. So that's what was happening, is I was saying, "No, you can't do that." And then they were just going and doing it. And then when it blew up, it became my problem again anyway. So I was extremely frustrated, and I go to Mike in tears, and if you happen to work with Mike, you know that he is not a tears man, so does not deal well with that. And Mike at the time had this shitty little office that had just a little window. They called it the privacy window, so that you didn't have privacy. That was all to keep you from doing funky stuff in there. And he had 2 huge desks in the L shape, and basically he just kinda shimmied around them. And he had no guest chair. All he had was this somewhat inflated exercise ball, which I suspect he kept there because it was uncomfortable and it kept people from camping out in his office. And I was in tears, and blubbering. No one's listening to me. Why is anybody listening to me? How am I supposed to do my job? I need to get promoted so people listen to me. That was his favorite. When I was like, I need to get promoted so people are listen to me. And that's going to come up in a later conversation because he did sit my ass down on that one. But anyway, because I think I did that twice. The second time he definitely sat my ass down on that one. But anyway, so I was like, no one's listening to me. What do I do? How I'm not supposed to be blah, blah, blah. It's not my job. Why are the people and just in general unhappiness. And Mike was having none of it. I think at some point he sort of, shoved a half-used lunch napkin at me to get the snot off my face. Um, but he was not having it. And he finally stopped me and he said, "Kim, do you know why no one's listening to you? Do you know why you're so frustrated?" And of course I was like, "Oh, I have no idea. I'm doing everything I can." And he said, "It's because you're saying no. You say no too much." And I was like, "I say no too much. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I'm a compliance person. Like, I'm trying to, you can't do this shit. Like, why? What?" He goes, "No, there is no no at Amazon. You cannot say no at Amazon. It's not our culture. If we said no here, we wouldn't be Amazon. You cannot say no at Amazon, Kim. There is always a way." And it took me a while to get my head around it, right? I didn't agree. I'm like, "No, but this, and then there's these regs and da 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 da." And that was the other thing, right? Is I started taking the regs to meetings because I wanted to prove that I was right about the no because people weren't listening. So I start walking in with my regs and if y'all are like old like me, you will remember that the regs, that shit was paper. They came in big binders. There was like 3 or 4 volumes of them. And I was toting that shit into meetings just so that I could flip to the page, point to the regulation that said that this wasn't allowed. Now that went over like a lead balloon at Amazon to the point that I got a little talking to very publicly by the then SVP of Worldwide Operations, affectionately known as Jaw. If you can find some affection in that, let me know. Where after reading the regulations to him in a meeting, in hindsight, that was stupid, but at the time it seems right. Um, he looked at me and said, "I can read. Do you think I can't read?" And this is one of those moments where I didn't say anything, and that was smart because normally I would just open my mouth. He goes, "Kim, we didn't hire you to read to us. We hired you to solve problems. Can you do that?" And, I kinda solemnly nodded my head because I knew that this was not a time to speak. Mhm, 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 and I kinda slunk out of the room. But it was my wake-up call, and Mike was there when that happened, so he knew what was going on. And so I was struggling, I didn't know how do well, what do I do? Well, I mean, how am I supposed to move forward if I can't say no? Like, I really did not know what to do. And so Mike being the amazing mentor that he was, is, and hopefully always will be, said to me, "You have to come up with 3 solutions for every question that they come to you. If the answer is not yes, you can do it, you have to come up with 3 options from now on." So not only did I go in there wasting his time, blah, blah, and this was probably my punishment for wasting his time, is he just tripled my work, right? So going from no to now I got to figure out 3 different answers. But I did it. And I went from saying, "No, we can't do this. No, it's not allowed. No, it's the regs. No, this. No, 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 no," to saying, "Well, we can do it, but a plane is gonna explode and everybody's gonna die. Children will choke to death. Bezos is going to jail. Or we could do it this way, and we would mitigate the risk a little bit. And since it's going this way and not that way, and since it's coming here and not going there, and since we're doing this and not doing that, I think we maybe do it. There's some risk. Or we can do it this way over here, which is completely not what you want to do, but it's absolutely low risk and nothing bad's going to happen, but it probably doesn't meet your needs." So from then on, That was my approach was, huh, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. And let me get you back with some options. Keyword there being options. And from then on, I took everything that we did and every question that came to me, and I said exactly that. And I came back with options. And my career at Amazon took off. Everything changed for me. The success of my projects, the pace at what I was running, the things I was able to accomplish. I ran a $1 million a day ad on the Amazon homepage in R1, which is the ad space position 1 right side, which is the most expensive and most looked at position at the time on the Amazon page. And we hadn't really monetized ads at the time, but I figured out the team who actually ran it, and they taught me how to use the system, and I created my own ad for Amazon Global. So once I got rid of this no, 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 and I started thinking about yes, 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 and how, everything changed for me. I started out figuring out stuff for myself, like all of a sudden now, even for me, for my own products, my own projects, shit I was working on, I was suddenly like, well, wait a minute, maybe we can do it. Well, what would happen if we did get caught? Would we really get in trouble, or would it just be a little slap on the wrist? So everything changed when we took away no. So this is what happens when we take away no. We shift from focusing on being right to getting it right. And thank you, Brené Brown, for putting that into words for me. And I want to say that again. We switch from being right, no, you can't do that, and the regs say so, to getting it right, which is, I think we have a solution. It's slightly sketch, but I think it'll be okay. We go from black and white to thousands of shades of gray. We go from yes, no, to legal, illegal, to risk mitigation. If we get caught, what would really happen? Probably not much. Let's try it. See what happens. Might get a warning. Okay. We're all right with warnings. We like warnings. Lets us know we've touched the edge of the envelope. But it was that shift. And I've been interviewing a lot of guests on the podcast. I hope you've been listening to them. And I've been asking people, what's the one professional or personal lesson that you learned, and how did you apply it to your success? And for me, no was it for a long time. I have another one now. And you should have more than one, and they should change, because then you're growing. That's good. If you had one and now you have a different one. So I'm going to talk about my other one, my new one, later. But for a very long time, no was my greatest lesson, is that there was no. Anything is possible. Anything. In your personal life, in your professional life, in any portion of your life. Anything is possible. It's only a matter of time, effort, and money. Let that sink in. Anything is possible. It is only a question of time, effort, and money. And when you apply that to your project, your program, your job, anything in your life, it shifts to everything is possible. Try everything. You don't know. Take risk. When I stopped saying no at Amazon, I got promoted. Yep. Believe it or not. When I let go, when I stopped reading the regs to jaw, I got promoted. And that is the opposite of what I would have thought would have happened. Clinging was what I thought I needed to do, but letting go is what let it happen. There is no. Give up the control, give up the negativity, focus on what is possible. And most importantly, you have to focus on getting it right, not being right. There is no no. Thank you. I love you, my audience. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate that you're joining me on this journey as I build this podcast. All my love. And I will talk to you tomorrow.